Hi, good day. Welcome to another Simply Mail Solutions webinar that we're doing today. With this webinar, which is going to be on anti-spam, I'm joined by Martin Barber, who's going to work with me as we step through, which I think is an interesting subject and one which we should all take heed from. So this is about advanced threat protection, about anti-spam, about phishing, ransomware, all of those nasty things that are out there that are basically looking to steal your money or your information. So as normal, of course, when you listen to a Simply Mail Solutions webinar, we're here to help you, our customers, and our future customers at any point. We've got our helplines open. We've got a UK-based call centre, and of course, we're always delighted to work with you and to step you through those things. So, what I'd really like to do now is to perhaps ask Martin a few questions about spam, firstly, which many of us know about it or what it is, but may not know some of the detail behind it and some of the methodologies that it is used by to infect your personal PC or other servers or information that you may be on. So, hi Martin, good to have you with us today. Perhaps you could tell us a little bit about spam and why we should really take heed for it.
Hi Chris, thanks very much. Yeah, so basically spam is one of the biggest bugbears of email today. It's one of the main things that takes up most of our time going through mails that aren't necessarily genuine. So it does take valuable business time to everybody, from employees to the board level. It can be anything from just simple spam, which is just advertisements, to the more dangerous spam, which can basically lead to things like data breaches of taking company information from you. So it is important, if you are having a spam issue, which the majority of people generally do these days, is to have adequate anti-spam protection and ensure that that's obviously kept up to date as well with the latest standards. It's also equally important to make sure that legitimate emails get through without having any ongoing issues, such as, say, genuine email going to your junk folder, for example.
Brilliant. So that's really the mechanism. I think that many organisations that are after our data or our money, or both, would use, and I believe what they're looking to do is to deposit malware or malicious-ware onto that PC. Could you really describe what malware is and how it operates?
Yes, no problem. So basically, malware is a set of viruses. Basically, it's things from viruses to spyware, ransomware. It's basically a container for all different types of nastyware, basically, that you would get on your machine. Generally, most malware these days is via email, so it could be somebody sending you a file which contains a Trojan, for example, which can take control of your machine, or it could be down to an email such as ransomware, where it's demanding you do something, or demanding that you pay so much, either in Bitcoin or however method they say, or then they're going to refuse to unlock your data. So if they get hold of your data, they can, on your machine, they can basically encrypt that, and they can basically say, if you don't pay us 1 million Bitcoin by this date, your data will be permanently gone. It'd be completely locked out. But you also get threats that can come through that can infect your machine to harvest things like your contacts and send out spam to all your contacts as well. So it is a key that you do have something that's up to date on your machine, and obviously services on your email to prevent such things from happening, because once you get infected, it can be difficult to be uninfected unless you have the adequate software and services on your account.
Great. So that's what that's the the mechanism that crooks will use to deliver, and then that's what they're going to do once they get it in there. So let's have a look at some of the ways that we can combat that. So tell me a little bit about advanced threat protection and how that can help us combat the malware delivered by spam that could potentially get on a machine.
Yeah, so basically advanced threat protection, there's two methods of it, or there's two services that we provide. We provide one from an anti-spam service, and we also provide the one from the 365. Obviously, the 365 service is a lot better in regards to the way that it integrates, but basically the way it works is it's a secondary level of protection over just a bog standard antivirus. Bog standard antivirus will basically check email for things like known threats, and if it's on, say, a list of known people that have been sending non-genuine mail, for example. Advanced threat protection goes to the next level. What that basically does is it checks 30 to 40 different scanning engines for viruses, because not all scanning engines available will basically say that's a virus or that's a threat, where some will. So this gives you a next level of protection. So it actually real-time monitors any mails coming in. If it detects a threat, it will basically stop that mail from coming in and it will alert you. So you get a lot of reporting with it as well. So you can actually look at in real time what sort of threats that you're getting from malware to hacking-based emails. And with 365, it gives you a proper full picture of what's going on within your email for your business, basically.
Great. So let's look a little bit closer at some of the key features that that advanced threat protection system could utilize. I'm particularly interested with some of these, and I'll make a few comments, perhaps, Martin, as we go through these, because these are real life threats that are out there every day, and certainly I've had some personal experience, or colleagues that I work with have had personal experience of some of these kind of approaches that you may well get. So tell me about the key features that we should look to see from an advanced threat protection suite.
Yeah, so basically the ATP features themselves, there's many features to the service, but these are just some of them. But what you can basically do is it can identify spoofing, and what that basically means is where someone sends an email pretending to be you when it's not. So you could send an email, so there's a spammer could basically send an email to, say, the board of directors to say you need to pay this invoice for £100,000, for example, to make it look like it's come from finance. And there has been cases where that's actually happened, and they've actually paid this specific person that sent the email when in fact it wasn't the person that sent it originally. So ATP is one method of preventing spoofing. It can recognize the characteristics of that mail that comes in, knowing whether or not that's come from the actual genuine sender or somebody else, such as a spoofer or a hacker, for example.
And just stepping in there for a second, Martin, pausing at that one. Yeah. I've personally had a colleague of mine very, very recently where we were able to stop that spoofing, where exactly as you've just said there was utilised with an instruction to transfer £50,000 actually to another bank account. And that was very, very recently done and was foiled in terms of doing that. So these things are not just scare tactics, they are really, really out there. So identity spoofing is certainly a very common practice that's used, and it must be working, because if it wasn't working with certain targets, then the crooks would stop using it and they would move on to something else. So identity spoofing, I think, is really, really important protection to have, because it's a very common method for attempting to get money by fraudulent means out of companies, and it's very, very commonplace. So sorry, back to you, Martin.
Yeah,
now.
No problem. So secondly, another thing that ATP can do is what's known as authenticity and media check. So basically what that will do is it will check to make sure the integrity of the person sending that email is who they say they are. So it does that through different methods, such as analysing the header of the actual email to see what data is inside that email itself. Because generally, when someone sends a spoofed email, within the header, there'll always be the return path, or the server it's coming from will be different from the person that's saying that's sending it, and that's how it can basically work it out. But obviously, hackers are now getting more advanced, and they're able to rewrite that information. So services such as ATP is really a must for anyone that's that has email, because it does put that level of protection in place, whereas bog standard anti-spam doesn't. Whereas the service will actually do that. I mean, one of the other features that it does do is a thing called sandboxing, and all that basically means is it's like sort of like a virtual area as such, where incoming emails will come into, and it will actually, if it's got an attachment on it that they deem infected, it will actually open that particular infection to see what it will actually look like if it infected your machine without affecting anything in general. So it sort of like holds it in like a bubble basically, and it will see what sort of infections that it will do on your network, for example, or on your machine. And that's how it can basically determine what sort of threat it is, and if it's a genuine threat, then it will prevent that from coming to your inbox, and obviously then you'll get a report on it, but it will also prevent you from being infected. So it's a very good thing, and this is all just done in the background. It's nothing that you physically need to do. It's just literally all running in the background. All you will get is effectively a report that says the following emails are being captured by ATP. That's basically it. That's all you'll really get. You can go into more advanced logging as an administrator. You can go in and you can actually look at in-depth logs, but from a user's perspective, it's all done in the background, which makes it a lot easier for them to use, which means they don't have to worry about having to click anything. It just does it for them. There is other services part of ATP as well. One of the other key things, which is a really useful feature, and the one on 365 especially, because I've actually used it myself personally, is the URL scanning. And what that basically does is, when an incoming email comes in, or you've got a link in a document, for example, with that service turned on, what it will do is it will analyze the link to make sure that where it's saying it's going to is genuine. So, for example, if you get an email that's got a newsletter, or it's got a link, say you bought some software and it's got a link to download the software, what that will do is it will scan that link to tell you if that's genuine or not. And what it will do is it does what's known as rewriting. So what it will do is it will rewrite the web address to something like safelinks.microsoft.com and then a random load of characters. So then you know that that link is safe because Microsoft scanned it for any malicious code or viruses, that kind of thing, and it makes it a lot more secure. But by default that feature's off. You have to turn it on, but it is something that is worth having on ATP. It's a very useful feature, and it does the same for save with documents as well. So if you put in URLs into documents like Word or Excel, it scans them as well, so it makes sure that when you click on them, it is safe to click on them. There is other things as well that it does, like say there's the email notifications. There is pattern matching to identify email content to make sure that it's not going to cause any major threats, as into words of viruses, or so you don't actually going to compromise anything basically.
Right, great. So now many people these days know what Azure is, which obviously is Microsoft's added value hosting platform. But perhaps not so many of our listeners may be aware of what Azure Information Protection is as a component of Azure and how that works. Perhaps you could step us through the headlines on Azure Information Protection and perhaps how that may be applicable to some of our customers.
Yeah, sure, no problem. So basically, Azure Information Protection is only available on Office 365. It's an add-on service that will allow you to effectively protect your information that you're doing in a cloud-based solution. So effectively what that does is it protects things like documents and email. So it can protect documents in the ways of stopping prying eyes seeing in documents that are only privy to certain people in the organization, such as finance or legal. But it also allows you to encrypt emails as well. So if you are working on something that's legally binding, or something that only the destination person can see it, you can encrypt emails with it as well.
That's interesting. So how does it do that?
So basically, the way that it protects documents is it uses things called labels, and you can set them labels up via Outlook. There's just an add-on that you need to install for that to work. And basically, what that allows you to do is you can create a label, say, called confidential. So then you get a document, say you've got a Word document that's a legal case, you can actually label that document via the Office suite to say confidential. You can do the same for email as well. So it means that only people that are on that list of that confidential list can see that document, and the same with email as well. So it makes it a lot secure, especially for the legal and the financial industries. That's how the data protects it anyway. It's literally just a label that you create.
Right, got it. So, and then we move on to a bit more depth about some of the points that you've covered there, which is in terms of the integration into documents and how that works. Perhaps in a little bit more detail. Perhaps if you could just step us through that. I think this is really important, particularly with some of our customers that are operating in confidential or legal types of environments, where of course the security of clients' data is an integral part of the service that they're providing. So if you could just step through in a little bit more detail the integration of documents, I think it's worth us spending a little bit more time on that, and how that would be implemented in a customer client relationship situation.
Yeah, no problem. So basically, all it is the way that it works with documents is you have to install effectively. There's an add-on that you install. Once the service is provisioned on your actual account, it will actually be available via the Office suite as well. So you have a document, you go into the AIP section for labels, you create a label for that specific document that you want it to be called, whether it's private, confidential, whichever you want that to be, and then you just protect that particular file. It's a bit like doing it when you do a password protect on, say, an Excel file. It's similar to that, but instead of putting a password, you're actually protecting it using AIP, which means it's effectively encrypted. And it only means that you can set who can see that particular file. So no one else can see it other than the people that you actually specify. If you're on a Windows machine as well, you do have the facility to do that via Windows Explorer as well. So you can actually protect documents via that option as well, which all comes part of the Office suite within the Windows environment. But that's effectively how it works. It's just a way of effectively encrypting a file, so only certain people can see it that you want to be able to see it.
Great. And can I integrate my my email into this process to make that secure?
Yeah, so one of the other features of AIP is basically the email encryption service, and all that allows you to basically do is it allows you to protect the emails with labels. So within Outlook itself, as you can see on the diagram on screen, there's an option that says protect, and then you can see several tabs across the top: personal, public, general, etc. You can specify the sensitivity of that particular email that comes in. So there is sensitive information coming in, especially about legal cases. You can mark that particular mail as confidential, and only you can see that, or you can specify other people to see it as well, regard if it's other people involved in that particular case.
Great. Well, thank you very much for stepping through all of the sort of core threats and then the different ways of approaching those. Particularly using some of the Microsoft tools that some of our customers may not be so familiar with, but may already have effectively at the tips of their fingers, should they use them. And I think that really brings in us and what we do for our customers. So we wouldn't expect you, if you've listened to this short presentation today, to perhaps understand all of the detail of it. You may need help in terms of putting the system in, or further questions or queries, and that's where we come in. You know, we're a specialist cloud provider. We've been in the cloud business since 2006. And we specialize in Microsoft and Microsoft ecocentric solutions. with a UK team, UK-based help desk, and we're here, of course, to help you at any time, particularly in a difficult time as we're in at the moment, where many of our customers are working with disparate solutions, remote from offices, and may well be more susceptible to some of the threats that we've briefly talked about today. So thank you very much for watching and listening to our webinar today. You'll find further information on this, plus a number of other webinars that we've done on aligned subjects at simplymailsolutions.com. And of course, the contact details are here for our sales line, our support line, and of course, we're always happy to work with you, even if you're not a customer, and hopefully help you to become one. And for our customers, we are more than happy to reach out to you to help you to make sure that your systems are safe, secure and effective. Thank you very much again, Martin, for joining us today. Thank you for listening to us, and we look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye-bye from me.
Goodbye.